Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. This call is going to be a little different today. We're going to have a little macroeconomic discussion because given what's going on in Iraq and what's going on globally and what's going on especially in the United States, we're going to have to take a look at all of this from a macroeconomic point of view. I'm not going to get into weeds with a lot of esoteric jargon or anything of that nature, but there are things going on that we haven't seen for a century, and we're going to be a part of that in a very important way and in a very good way. So let me get into some of this discussion. I'll get into this in more detail. I heard something last night that really made me rethink what I was going to discuss today and how it affects those of us that have currencies and in general, how we manage our financial affairs. And so I'm going to kind of wing it today. I apologize for that, but I basically tore up what I was going to say, and I kept pieces of it. So if I'm wandering around, I apologize. But again, I'll make it clear, what I heard that really made me kind of rethink what I wanted to discuss. But again, we're going to take a little bit more of a macroeconomic view of this. I will touch first on what's going on in country in Iraq. Very simply, there is something going on referred to as the Azraflak movement and or campaign. And very simply, it's the protocol that's been established for the nation's transition to the electronic payment system, a system which, in my opinion, had to be established before the reinstitution and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. The system does two things immediately that needed to be done. First, it neuters Iran and their continued attempts to pilfer from the wealth of Iraq. And second, it facilitates the cross-border system, which is necessary in order for Iraq to go international so that their currency can, in turn, revalue globally. The other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that Trump is utilizing tariffs, and he's announced a 34% tariff on Vietnam and a 39% tariff on Iraq. Now, very simply, a tariff is something imposed by a given government on imported goods and services in order to raise revenues, protect domestic investments, and facilitate real currency valuations. So in my opinion, the tariffs on Vietnam and Iraq specifically are leverage to force these countries to reinstitute and revalue their currencies. Trump's global strategy, in my opinion, is, of course, to restructure the globe economically, to stop countries like China to artificially devalue their currencies in order to corner the trade market. So the use of tariffs force these countries to work fairly. And in the case of countries with currencies in program rates, countries that are, in essence, wealthy countries, to revalue their currencies. He's also established the Sovereign Wealth Fund so that all of our money isn't being spent, but actually in our global currency and our money domestically is also being invested. So we're not just spending it, we're also investing it as a nation. Now, I want to mention two economists. One is John Keynes, and the other is Adam Smith. John Keynes is basically the father of Keynesian economics, which is a debt-oriented system. Our Federal Reserve System is basically based on debt, and this is the problem. Because when this was instituted, the theory was, yeah, we'll borrow the money, we'll invest the money, and we'll pay the interest back. Well, we never did that. We just kept borrowing, and now we have $36 trillion in debt. The other economist is Adam Smith, and he's our friend, and I'm going to discuss that very, very briefly. What happened to me was that there was a news thing about Trump, and he mentioned the word of equilibrium trade. And when he said equilibrium, it triggered something in my mind. And I was thinking about it, and then it dawned on me. He's talking about the equilibrium theory, or what's referred to generically in economic terms as game theory. And they've all talked about Trump using game theory. What is game theory? What is equilibrium theory? For those of you that might remember, there was a movie made called A Beautiful Mind, and it starred Russell Crowe. In my opinion, and of course he won the Academy Award, and rightfully so, in my opinion, it was the best movie he ever made. It was a true story about an economics professor at Princeton named Jonathan Nash. And he won his Academy Award for something called equilibrium theory. He based that theory on something from Adam Smith. John Nash said, Adam Smith said that the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself. Now that is the inaccurate definition of capitalism, in my opinion. But then John Nash went on to say, but that's incomplete, because the best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself and the group. And that's exactly what Trump is talking about with tariffs. He's forcing everyone to do not just what's best for themselves, but what's best for everyone. And another example I can give you is our purchase of the Iraqi dinar. We purchased the Iraqi dinar when it was in a program rate. The theory being that we purchased it for next to nothing, and then when the country resolved all of its internal economic problems and became Basel compliant again, we would receive a substantial windfall profit. So that would be us doing what's best for ourselves. But because, and precisely because, we invested in that country when it was on its knees economically, we did what was best for ourselves and the nation state of Iraq. And then Iraq is able to develop substantial trade with all of the other Middle Eastern nations, which benefits both of them. And now Iraq is going to be a global player. So we as investors profit. The citizens of Iraq and the nation state profits. The nations in the Middle East surrounding Iraq, with the exception of Iran, who isn't playing the game, they don't understand game theory, they're all benefiting, and globally we all benefit. So this is where we find ourselves. Now the Iraqi dinar is going to be revaluing very shortly, because it has to. As I said, they've neutered Iran, which has been the problem in Iraq for as long as the Iraqi dinar has been in a program rate. As a matter of fact, Iran's probably the reason they're in a program rate. But now that they have completed the digital cross-border payment system, and now that their nation state is arguably per square mile one of the richest countries in the world, they're going to return to Basel compliance, and we're going to be in the banks exchanging our currency very, very shortly. So this is a shorter call today. That's basically all I wanted to say. I will say this, though. The other part of this, and the reason Trusts Unlimited is involved, is because of the currencies. And how to protect those currencies. And the only way to protect those currencies is to place them in trust before they revalue. Once these currencies revalue, if they are owned by you in title, everyone will know what you possess. Anyone can sue you. Any nefarious character can approach you for any reason. And when you have wealth, particularly if you're the nouveau riche and you're a newly acquired person, as an example, people that win lotteries, they're overwhelmed. As a matter of fact, I know someone that won a lottery through a friend, and said that they literally had to change their phone number. They couldn't even get in their car. There were people on their front lawn. And so by assigning the currencies to the trust before they revalue, they're in trust. The trust is sealed. No one knows what you possess. You operate on your Social Security number. Your trust operates on an EIN number. Under the law, that trust is sealed. No one has that information. This is a Wyoming trust, meaning that you have the best asset protection, in our opinion, available domestically. So there'd be no reason for anyone to sue you because you own nothing. And even if they knew you had a trust, they probably wouldn't pursue the suit because unless they win a lawsuit, they wouldn't even know what's in the trust. So who's going to go to Wyoming, hire a Wyoming attorney, pay a Wyoming bond, and proceed with litigation out of state when they have no idea what's in that trust? So this is why you establish the trust pre-RV. The trust does a lot of other things, too. There are certain tax benefits to establishing the trust. You can give currencies to family and friends and still control the post-RV proceeds. The trust will allow you to avoid probate. The trust will allow you to avoid the federal state tax, which is substantial. And the money can be managed privately as you wish. So this is why you would establish our trust package. The reason I'm moving so quickly through this call is because right now I have over 50 people that I have to return a call to. And that doesn't count the people that are going to be calling during the day when I'm returning those calls. And the reason we're this busy, as you well know, is because we're very close to the day we're going to go to the bank. We've reached the point of no return. And this is where we are. But the reason I completely, again, changed this call is simply because Donald Trump used the word equilibrium, and it clicked in my brain that that's what's happened in Iraq. That's what's happened with us, with the purchase of these currencies. And so I would strongly suggest to anyone listening to this call that has not contacted us to get our initial no-obligation package to please do so. Go to our email, which is trusts with an S, unlimited LLC at gmail.com. Just ask us for our initial package. I'll be happy to get it to you. For some reason, I've forgotten our phone number. Let me see if I have it written down here. I'm sorry, I didn't have that ready. Again, our email address is trust with an S, unlimited LLC. Trust with an S, unlimited LLC. .com. Our phone number is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. The last thing I'll mention is this. When the Iraqi dinar went into the program rate, the country was in shambles, and the value of the currency at that time was $3.22. Add to that 20 years of inflation and a substantial rebuilding of Iraq, arguably, in my opinion, the richest country per square mile on the planet, and riches, natural resources, just off the charts. So 322, in my view, is a very conservative estimate of what the dinar should be worth. As I've said on the calls before, the currency people I'm talking to say that they can't see it below $4.85. I've talked about $5 in the past, but even at 322, that's a huge windfall profit when you're purchasing the currency, 1 million dinar for $1,000. So, as a matter of fact, I might just try to buy some more after this call. Again, I'm sorry I'm moving through this call rather. You know what? Maybe we'll try to go to a Q&A here. Let me see if I can do just a little Q&A. I feel badly about moving so quickly, but I feel my first obligation is to people contacting us, those that already have trusts that have issues and those that want to purchase a trust. But let me go ahead. Let me just open the Q&A here. If anyone has any questions. See if there's anything else here that I wanted to discuss about. Well, I will mention one other thing, and that is one of the questions I get a lot is, Jim, how can you purchase dinar for $1,000 and get $3.25 million back? I mean, you know, what's the old saying? If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and that's pretty much true. But let me just go through how we got in this position. 1913, we established the Federal Reserve. So the United States at the time, probably the largest economy in the world, establishes a fiat currency and goes to basically a debt system. As a result of that, we have depressions, inflation, all of these issues. Go all the way to 1984. 1984, we have something called Basel compliance. This means that the various central banks around the world and all of the countries involved are going to move back to a commodity-backed currency. In other words, we gave the fiat system close to 100 years, and it ain't working. Countries are in debt. Currencies are losing their purchasing power. So we're going to go back to commodity-backed currencies, and it's called Basel compliance. It's a 5-phase system. 1993, Iraqi dinar, because of what's going on with Saddam Hussein and internally in Iraq, goes back into a program rate, meaning the currency is basically worthless. You and I subsequently purchased the Iraqi dinar, purchased 1 million dinar for basically $1,000. The Iraqi dinar, at a Basel IV compliant rate, is going to be worth a minimum of $3.22 per U.S. dollar. So we purchased the currency when it was in a program rate, and it was worth virtually nothing because of political issues, when we know economically Basel bases the value of a currency on the known natural resources and the ability to bring those resources to market. So we purchased a currency of a nation in shambles whose natural resources arguably say per square mile it's the richest country in the world. Now they're going to revalue their currency through Basel based on its actual value, and we're going to reap the benefit from that. And this could be happening very, very shortly. Those of you that are listening to this call that perhaps have not purchased currencies, I strongly suggest you purchase some dinar and some dong. And if you can afford to do so and you have some of those currencies, you might want to purchase a little bit more. I'm going to be doing it right after this call. And again, the thing, and I'll close out and go to the Q&A. The thing that hit me yesterday like a bolt of lightning was when Trump used the word equilibrium. And then I went back, oh my God, the equilibrium theory. This is what he's been, and which is game theory, which is his whole strategy of what he's doing. All of these nations, including the United States, should benefit from this, but it should be done on the basis of equilibrium. And that's exactly what's about to happen. Iraq is going to be back in the game. Their currency is going to be a Basel IV compliant rate. And that rate, in my opinion, cannot be less than $3.22, and will probably be closer to $5. So we do have some questions here. Our first caller is area code 810. That's 810. Go ahead. Hello, 810?
Hold on here.
Are you there? I'm going to have to move on if you're not there. Okay, I'll try to come back. Our next caller is area code 785. That's 785. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jim. Hey, if a $25,000 note is worth only so much in Iraq today, as well as for us as investors, okay, if they just dropped the 3 zeros off and made a $25,000 note a $25 note, we would still make money, and then the Iraqi citizen would also have more purchase power than that. Okay, so in other words, if a Iraqi dinar $25,000 note in Iraq, they dropped the zeros, and the person had $25, he would still have more purchasing power versus a $25,000 note today. Is that right?
That may be the case in Iraq, but that does not affect us. The deletion of the zeros has nothing to do with us. It has to do with dropping the money supply in country. But the central banks, the hedge funds, and individuals such as ourselves purchase those 3 zero notes, which we will exchange for our currency, not their currency. We'll exchange it for our currency in the relative whatever country we happen to be in. So our $25,000 note will be exchanged for USD, and then our central bank will work out an arrangement to retire that currency to the Central Bank of Iraq.
So there'd be no way that our notes would be worth only $25, which would still give us a profit. You know what I'm saying?
Iraq will not be permitted to rob us like that. And remember, it's our central bank that's exchanging the $25,000 and then, again, retiring it to Iraq. So there'll be an arrangement between the central banks, but that's not going to affect us.
Okay. Well, I was just curious about that. I thought to myself, well, they would get more purchasing power at $25 than what they got now for a $25,000 note. And then we would still make a little bitty profit on ours.
Well, no, that would be that money, we could have done a lot bit better with that money. That's not going to happen because, again, remember, the central banks that have done the currency swaps, the central banks that have invested in Iraq, the hedge funds and all of that, they're not going to let us short sheet us like that. So that's not going to happen, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's from the. Okay, I have the tariffs. Do you think that's gonna destroy the U.S. economy or ruin it?
The what?
Do you think the tariffs? Do you think that'll ruin the economy in the long term, or what do you think about that?
No. As a matter of fact, I've mentioned this before. The golden age, in terms of this enrichment of the United States, referred to as the Gilded Age, happened before the Federal Reserve and the federal income tax. The United States made their money externally through tariffs, not internally through federal taxes. So not only are the tariffs not going to hurt the country, they're going to substantially enrich the country, in my opinion.
Okay,
and it's already happened once before.
Now, what about the Iraq? Now, I know the tariffs that he excluded the oil thing, I think, right? So oil is not included in the tariffs, I don't think.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I
was reading somewhere that he excluded oil from the tariffs. I don't think oil was affected. So
I will check that out. That may be the case. So I will look into that. That may well be the case. But the other thing, remember, one of the reasons that may be true is because what Trump's doing is he's trying through production domestically to substantially reduce the price of oil. That's another thing that puts pressure on Iraq to revalue their currency, because they're not going to be able to have there's a difference between $100 a barrel and $62 a barrel. I mean, that takes a serious bite out of there. So that's probably what's going to happen.
So how long do you think Iraq can delay this? Because don't they have to work? They're a drowning man. They need to do this. I know the Shia pro-Iranian politicians are doing everything they can to drag their feet, but I think Soudani's on a mission. I'm thinking right now he's in the process of dotting I's and crossing T's, and I expect to be in the bank this month. I'm hoping that's the case. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 808. That's 808. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Daisy.
Hey, Daisy. How you doing?
Good. My question is, I don't care about that. If I was to purchase more dinar, how would I do that?
Well,
Where
you could
would
just
I be able to get that?
Well, you know what? I'm going to purchase some. I'm going to go to, and I'm not suggesting this firm over anyone. I'm going to go to ibuydinar.com.
Dinar.com.
Dinar.com. That's wrong. I think that's where I bought my last tranche there, and I'm just going to go ahead and contact them. As a matter of fact, while I'm at it, I'm going to buy some dong. I didn't get into the dong, but I have a good feeling about the dong too. So that's just what I'm doing.
Well, I've done
and you
that
can purchase both. You can purchase either of them there.
Okay, because I've gotten the dong, but I didn't know where to get the dinar from, and I keep meaning to ask you, and I forgot. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and I pray that this all will happen soon so you can be rid of us.
No, I have nice conversations with everyone, but I've got 5 daughters, and I have some things I need to pay for, like college, weddings, and all that stuff.
I'm with you there, okay?
Yeah.
Plus, I've got a bunch of grandkids, so yes. Thank you so much.
Sure, you take care. Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye.
Okay, our next caller is area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Larry from Maryland.
Yes, sir.
To clarify, when the trusts are funded, the taxation is based on that tax ID number, not our personal number, correct?
Correct.
And
the difference the tax difference is negligible. The important issue is that when the currencies revalue, they revalue within the trust, so no one knows that you even when you had them pre-RV, you never filed a tax return, so no one knows that you ever possessed them, and they certainly don't know what you possess when it's in trust. So you're under the radar. You're not on the grid. No one knows about it, and that's the best way to protect yourself is if no one even knows the asset exists or that you own it or that you have control of it through a trust.
And then does it basically follow the same personal rates as far as percentages?
It's close. Mm-hmm. But there are certain things you can do. I don't want to get into 1031 rollovers and all this, but once this thing hits the Forex, then we're going to shift gears and we're going to start talking about all of those things. There's all kinds of things you can do. I'll just give you one example. You could let's say you had 10 million dinar, and let's say that you got $1 for it, just to keep it simple. So now you have $10 million in trust. Well, you want to do some philanthropic things. You want to reduce taxes. So you decide to give a quarter of that, 2.5 million of that, into a charitable remainder trust to your church. Well, by doing that, you don't have to pay the tax on that 2.5 million profit because you've given it to a charity. But it means something else too. It means during your lifetime, all of the income generated
by that $2.5 million in that charitable trust is tax-free to you. So there's all kinds of things we can do post-RV, to funnel the money to charitable things, which helps reduce your tax exposure. I know you're not doing it just for the taxes. You're doing it for charity, and then you can generate tax-free income. And because it's tax-free, it means you can be a little bit more conservative in what you're investing because of what you're getting is net after-tax dollars. So that's just an example. But, we'll be shifting gears and getting into that after the dinar hits the 4X.
Right, but the taxes do have consequences, as you're saying. Okay, and they're totally separate. There's your personal, and then there'll be the trust, and the accountants would deal with each one. Okay, thank you.
And again, you operate with your social. The trust will operate with an EIN number. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Certainly. Well, that was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to our call. Time is short. If you have not established your trust, I suggest you at least contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. You'll learn a lot from it, and having learned that information, you might really want to establish your trust. Right now, I've got literally over 50 people I have to contact that have gotten the package and have decided they've said that they want to proceed. You can contact us by email or phone. Our email address is trust with an S, Unlimited LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC @gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. We'll get our initial package out to you as quickly as possible. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of your trust, but again, you're not obligated to do so. Our next call will be next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Certainly, if something of dramatic nature happens between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, again, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great week. God bless.